Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're continuing the Hachaim. We're in Parshat Pinchas, Perek Chavav, Pasuk Hey. Today, we're going to learn a very fascinating idea from the Hachaim, something called Yichudim, a Kabbalistic idea that's called Yichudim. On a very simple level, a Yichud is when we say Hashem's name in a bracha. Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, right? Adnos. Mekubalim, or properly stated, the correct term would be mechavnim, those that concentrate based on secrets and things that were transmitted over to them. They have certain names of Hashem in mind. They concentrate without saying with their mouth certain tzirufim of Hashem's name. The famous one, which everybody Kemat knows, is that on the davening of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur by Musaf, when we have the brachas of the brachas Kehanim, if you look at the Hiratzain, there's a name of Hashem that you're supposed to have in mind as you say in the Hiratzain. If you look, you open up a machzor, you'll see it, the Hiratzain. We don't say it. I believe the article clearly states, do not say it out loud. We're not supposed to say it out loud. We have in mind, we're mechavnim. Some people don't do it because we don't know how to do it. There are those mekubalim that are trained and they have in mind when they're saying brachas certain combinations of Hashem. That creates a yichud in Shemayim. That by creating a yichud in Shemayim, you now create a shefa that's able to be brought down into this world. We're going to learn and discuss this idea based on this pasuk. Now, at this point in pasuk Hey, Hakadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, I want you to count Klal Yisrael. And there are two main reasons for this. The first reason is that after the Magefa, Hakadosh Baruch Hu wants to show Klal Yisrael how precious and how important every member of Klal Yisrael is. Hashem doesn't need Moshe Rabbeinu to count Klal Yisrael. Hashem knows exactly how many people in Klal Yisrael there are. It's for us to see how important we are to Hashem, that Hashem is spending time, so to speak, and writing in the Torah, every member of Klal Yisrael was to be counted and to show that he is important. The second reason, which is what we're going to discuss today, is that Hakadosh Baruch Hu wants to show, as we're going to see how, that every member of Klal Yisrael is kadosh v'tahar and is of pure lineage. Unfortunately, because of the Aveira, people could say, maybe this happened before where there were illegal relations, and the children that are born are problematic. Hashem says, no, I'm going to testify that every member of Klal Yisrael is kadosh v'tahar. How is that done? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to attach his name, Yud K, to every member, every family of Klal Yisrael. So, for example, by Ruvain, so you have Mishpachas Chanoich. Chanoich was the firstborn of Ruvain. HaKadosh Baruch Hu now calls him HaChanoichi. The same thing with Falui. Hashem now calls him HaFalui. So Hashem adds Yud and Hey to each name and each Shevet. If you go from each Shevet, you'll see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu adds Hey and Yud. Why is that? So the Hachaim teaches us that Amar Rav Idi, we're now in the Hachaim, Hey bereish de tiyufta, Hey, that's in the beginning of the letter, V'yud b'soifa, Ka, which means Hashem says, I am made aleim shehem b'nei v'sehem. Matam, what's the reason? Because Shiftei Ka Edus, Hashem wants to show that the Shiftei Ka, as the children of Yaakov Avinu told Yaakov before his death, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that this is an edus that they're all kadosh v'tahar. So the Hachaim says, "V'isi lasis tam." The Hachaim says, "I have a problem here. If you tell me that Hashem Yud Hey is made on Klal Yisrael, so why did we put the letters backwards? What's the letters? The order of the letter? It's Hey first, then Yud, Hachanoichi, Hafalui, and so on and so forth. But that's not the way you spell Hashem's name. Hashem's name is Yud K. One of the many different names of Hashem is Yud K. So somehow it should have said Yud first, then Hey at the end. How come it says Hey first and Yud second? Hey batchila, the Yud besoif, says the Hachaim, is out of order. So bahaktim nivreim. So in order to understand this, says the Hachaim, ki klolus nishmois Yisrael emikise kavod yisbarach. We know that every member of Klal Yisrael, the collective member of Klal Yisrael, all come from this place called the Kisei HaKavod. Asher Yikra Heichal Kochoy, which is called HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Heichal. The Iskana B'Shem Adnos. And this is referenced in the name of Adnos. Why is it referenced in the name of Adnos? because Aleph Daled Nun Yud is Malchus, is my master. The master Kaviyachol sits on a throne. So Hakadosh Baruch Hu says the neshamas come from the area that's called the Heichel, which is Kaviyachol, my Kisei HaKavod. Now, obviously, Hakadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have a Kisei HaKavod. It's not a physical thing. There's no Heichel. It's all for us to be able to relate to this idea that Kaviyachol is a special place in Shemayim that Hakadosh Baruch Hu took the nefashos of Klal Yisrael and brought them into this world. That part is called Aleph Daled Nun Yud, which is Malchus. That's why Klal Yisrael is Mamleches Kohanim. We are kingdom of Kohanim, because we come from the area where Hashem is called Aleph Daled Nun Yud. Now, according to what we know from Mikubalim, Shara Kavonis, Ki Yischavev Kol HaMoitzi Piv Haskaras Hashem. Now the Hachaim is going to introduce us this concept that we mentioned, Yichudim. Now again, Yichudim is not for the average person. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be taught. And for sure, we do not say the names Bepeh. We only have in mind after going to the mikvah, after Netilas Yadayim, and obviously you have to know what you're doing, because if you corrupt it, you can cause tremendous damage in the oilmas. Ki Yischayev Kol HaMoitzi Mipiv. Anybody that says the name of Hashem, which means that when you look at the bracha, the way the bracha is spelled is Yud Kei Vav Kei. Now we don't say Yud Kei Vav Kei, right? We're not allowed to say it. We instead say Aleph Daled Nun Yud, right? So when you look at the bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem, which is spelled Yud Kei Vav Kei, we don't say it as Yud Kei Vav Kei. We rather say it as Adnos, Aleph Daled Nun Yud. Now, when you're saying Hashem's name, Aleph Daled Nun Yud, you have to have in mind the real way to say it, or the letters, I should be more specific, of Yud Kei Vav Kei. So again, make sure we have it clear. When we make a bracha, we say Baruch Atah Hashem Adnos, Aleph Daled Nun Yud. It's not spelled like that in the brachas. It's spelled Yud Kei Vav Kei. So when we say Aleph Daled Nun Yud, at the same time, as the Hachaim is going to teach us exactly how to do it, we have to have in mind the real letters of the real way to say the name of Hashem, of Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's the mechaven part. That's the yichud. Now, the best way to see this, as we're going to see in a second, is if you open up a siddur from Acheinu B'nei Asfardim, this yichud is written out in the right way, which means like this: Hamuskars Shem Aleph Daled Nun Yud. You have to say the name Aleph Daled Nun Yud, which is Adnos, V'hanelamos, and the name that's not said Yud Kei Vav Kei, you have to have in mind. Gam, the way to do it is Lishilu V'Osius. You don't say, okay, I'm saying Aleph Daled Nun Yud, and at the same time I'm having in mind Yud Kei Vav Kei. Rather, you have to have in mind a combination of the two names. That's called Tzirufei Hashemas. What's the combination of these two names? So now, the real name is Yud Kei Vav Kei. So what you do is you alternate letters. So you have in mind Yud, Aleph, Hey, right? So Yud is from the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. Then you switch to the second name, which is Aleph Daled Nun Yud, which is Adnos, Aleph. Hey, Daled, Vav Nun Hey Yud. So you're alternating letters from the two names of Hashem. So again, let's make sure we have it clear. When we make a bracha, we say Baruch Atah Hashem. Hashem is spelled Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's supposed to be spelled Yud Kei Vav Kei. We don't say Yud Kei Vav Kei as it's supposed to be said. We rather say a different name of Hashem, Aleph Daled Nun Yud, right? Adnos, Baruch Atah Hashem. All right, everybody knows what the word is. But the Hachaim teaches us that when you say the name of Hashem, Aleph Daled Nun Yud, you have to have in mind a combination, a meshing of the two letters of Hashem, two names of Hashem, of Yud Kei Vav Kei and Aleph Daled Nun Yud. What's the concentration to have in mind? Is where we're alternating letters from the two names. We start with Yud from Yud Kei Vav Kei, then we alternate to the second name of Hashem of Aleph Daled Nun Yud, then we alternate back to Hey, then back to Daled, and so on and so forth. The best way, if you can, is if you open up a Sfarish Siddur, they have it written out very nicely. When the two names are combined, Yamdu Yachad Oisius Heyud. Now, the Hachaim teaches us a very important thing. When you write out the combination, the meshing of these two names, Yud Ke Vav Ke, and alternating every letter with Aleph Daled Nun Yud, the last two letters is Hey and Yud. Hey Kodim Yud. And therefore, the reason that Hakadosh Baruch Hu added Hey and Yud, because really those are the last two names of this Yichud. This Yichud represents Adnus, the Malchus, Klal Yisrael, which are Nesiim, which are princes, and the name of Hashem. And when Mela says the Hachaim, we see from here a beautiful concept where Hakadosh Baruch Hu is attaching his name. Which name? The combination of Yud Ke Vav Ke and Aleph Daled Nun Yud, and that's why the Hey comes before the Yud. And through that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is being made that number one, all the nefashos of Klal Yisrael come from the special place of the Heichel, which is Malchus, and I am associating my name with Hashem. So again, make sure we have it clear. When we make a bracha, we say Aleph Daled Nun Yud. That's how we make the bracha. Baruch Atah Hashem. When we say the name of Hashem, we're supposed to say it slowly, and we're supposed to concentrate on a meshing of the two names of Hashem, of Yud Ke Vav Ke and Aleph Daled Nun Yud. Right? You write it out. Yud is from Yud Ke Vav Ke. We then alternate to the second name of Hashem, and we write an Aleph. Then we go back to the main name of Hashem, Hey. We go back to the second name, Daled. Then there's Vav, Nun, Hey, and Yud. That combination, that meshing of these two names create a yichud, is a explanation of Hashem is the Melech and Hashem is the King, and Hashem Hu Elokim. And Memela, through that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took the last two letters of this unique name and attached it to every member of Klal Yisrael. The pasuk continues, Hu dasan v'aviram. Tzarech l'das. Ma bo l'lamdeinu b'mamazeh. Why does the pasuk have to teach us that these were dasan aviram, and where they came from, and what they did? Vim l'adiya kain, that heim hamur b'maaseh karach. If it's to teach us that they were the same dasan aviram that were busy in the Maaseh of Karach, davar Parshat, we already know this. Shein l'tay show you dasan v'aviram acherim. The Hachaim says, is it possible to think there were two other dasan aviram that had the same father? Doesn't make sense. Why should we mention them at all? They were already destroyed. Why do we have to mention that at all? They're not being counted now. Right now we're counting those that are remaining Klal Yisrael. Dasan aviram already gone. Right? The Hachaim says we didn't count all the people that died in the Midbar. So why are we mentioning Dasan aviram here? Why does it have to say twice that they provoked, and they provoked the other people that went against Hashem? Why does it have to say that? The Nir says the Hachaim a very fascinating idea. The Hachaim comes to teach us that they were the main cause of the whole Maaseh Korach. That everything that happened with the Maaseh Korach was only because Dasan Aviram instigated them. When it comes to Rishoyim, there's a mitzvah to be mefarsem the evil that they did. Right? Normally, we don't say Lashon Hara on even a person that did an Aveira. Right? The Chaim teaches us that for sure, if a person made a mistake, you for sure don't say Lashon Hara. But even a person that's a Beinani and he did an Aveira, we assume that he did tshuva. And Memela, not only do you have to judge him favorably, you also are not allowed to go tell other people of the Aveira that he did, because you can embarrass him. However, when it comes to a Rasha, Chaim says there's a mitzvah to be mefarsem his rishos. And over here, Hakadosh Baruch Hu wants to be mefarsem that Dasan Aviram were the instigators of the whole Maaseh Korach, and they were punished, and they were Rishon, and we should know that they went against and rebelled against Hashem. V'chein Pirish Rashi. Rashi also explains, Olamalat Hashem ha'machtiim ha'edar nedas. V'efshe shegam Korach ha'michtiu. Chaim says it's very possible that they caused Korach to do an Avera. Right? They found a guy that, for whatever level we don't understand, was upset, and they used that against him. They played on his emotions, and they caused him to do an Avera. And that is a limud schus on Korach, that really Korach on his own would not have challenged Moshe Rabbeinu, says the Hachaim. Rather, because Dasan and Aviram instigated them and played on their emotions, unfortunately that happens many times, and Memela, they were the cause of the terrible sorrow that happened. Not only that, there were many members in Klal Yisrael that would not have joined Korach or would not have at least stayed silent. And the Pasuk teaches us that they were the ones that caused all the things that happened. And the proof, says the Hachaim, was, as you look at the next piece in the Hachaim, B'nai Korach Mesu, that B'nai Korach's children didn't die. They were lived, they did tshuva. Whereas Dasan Aviram's children and their families all were wiped out. Why? Because they were the main ones that instigated the entire story of B'nai Korach. And Hakadosh Baruch Hu, on the one hand, wants to attach his name to the tzaddikim, and the other hand shows clearly that those that did Rishaim, those that were Rishaim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu is going to publicly call them out to embarrass them.